Welcome to Discover the Terror. I'm Maximilian Schmidt, and this is Herbert, your ghoulish host for this evening. Tonight's guests are the filmmaking duo behind the indie production company Launchover. As filmmakers and musicians, they have established a filmography so electric and so wide and deep in the narrative of short and long form. Taking the off-beaten path and embracing the weird, we have some of indie's precious darlings. Writer, producer, director, actor, Michael J. Epstein, and cinematographer, producer, director, Sophia Casiola. Thank you for coming on the show, y'all.
Thanks for having us. Glad to meet Herbert.
Herbert, yes, he's a very fantastic co-host because he doesn't really speak much, but you know what? He's just there and we love him. So, I've known you guys for about 2 years on and off, and I always see you running around Hollywood making a bunch of content, a bunch of films, and it's really impressive. But I want to go back all the way to the start. How did y'all meet?
We met at a folk music open mic that happened with Sleep in Boston, Massachusetts.
Beautiful, as you should.
So we met doing music, really.
Okay.
So it was like we were like two of a couple of weirdos that would show this open mic, not do folk music. You know, like much more aggressive.
You see each other, like he's doing his folk music and you're doing yours, and you're like, I kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
We became friends pretty fast. I met you like one of the first times you were there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We just started forming bands together and doing music together for a bunch of years, touring, like tons of shows, all that stuff. And then we got into doing music videos for our bands. So that's really
I got you. What kind of music did you guys do?
I did more punky, like like alternative, I guess. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Since the early 2000s.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah, and I was mostly in kind of like indie rock bands around that time.
Got you.
Many of our bands were together. You know, we played in each other's bands,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some that were not together. But
Yeah.
And you guys started making music videos for your friends and for yourselves, right? Kind of two helping hands right there.
well, we started working with other people initially. So we really didn't know anything about. I mean, we loved film, but we knew nothing about filmmaking.
Okay, guys.
And so I was in a band called The Motion Sick at that point, and we were doing pretty well. We were like featured in Spin magazine and had some other successes. And so we thought, okay, the next step is to do a music video. And so we ended up hiring a director after kind of searching around, and we did a pretty elaborate music video for the song called 30 Lives.
Okay.
And we had a really fun time doing it. And the music video and the song ended up in a bunch of the Dance Dance Revolution video games.
No way.
So so I could go to the arcade and I'm not good at the game, but I could dance while looking at my face on the
Yeah.
So that was quite successful. And then Sophia, if you want to talk about your music video,
The band was called Forsake Me, Oh My Darling, and it was like very loosely based on the 60s British TV show called The Prisoner.
Okay.
So we got it in our heads like, we'll do a recreation of the opening sequence to that show, because the opening sequence is like 2 minutes long and it gives the whole backstory for the character as being a spy, and then he gets like abducted and taken to this weird island. So it seemed like a great idea, and then it was like, okay, but they shot this in the 60s in England. So recreating that
In Boston.
took like a year, but we had a really great...
I think it took like 3 years.
It took forever.
Wow, that's dedication to that beautiful niche right there.
It was like kind of like film school for me, because it was like an 11-day shoot for 2 minutes.
That 2.5 minutes took more than some of our feature films.
Especially after that, we were like, all right, we want to do music videos, but like we can't be spending 5 years on them,
For over years.
And taking years. So we got some cameras and started shooting around.
Yeah, and that video was very successful as well. So it was featured as like one of the Time Magazine Best Videos of the Year that year in 2011.
Okay.
So so we had some success with this.
Yeah.
Like this is a good idea. We should keep doing this.
Specifically music videos at the time.
Yeah.
Okay, and what was like the biggest lesson you've learned from that moment that you always think back on as, knee deep into your filmography now?
I think we've always kind of been DIY people. So we're like, we watched the people that we had hired or worked with to make the music videos. And we probably annoyed the hell out of them by looking over their shoulder and being like, what's that? Oh, why are you doing this? How does this work? But I think just realizing like, okay, we can, whatever it is we choose to do in this realm, we can figure out how to do it. And that's been the attitude.
Like, we almost gave up on that video so many times. Like, especially with the car. It's a very specific car. It's like a Lotus Caterham 7, like a British car. They also got like 50 in the right color. And so it's like, at one point we're like, all right, well, we'll do like a motorcycle, or we'll do this. And it's just like, the director especially he started going to car shows. Like he just like put in the time.
Research.
And he found
Replica from the show.
a right-hand drive replica owned by a guy in Massachusetts outside Boston who was willing to drive it around in the city.
It was just like crazy to see like that he didn't give up. And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I took a big lesson from
Yeah, for real. That is dedication. That's mad respect. Okay, so that's a perfect little nugget of info and inspo to take you to now moving to LA and then making your first feature or
features in Boston.
Oh, okay. What are they?
The first one was called 10. Because we're doing music videos and stuff, like the local movie theater called The Brattle had like a little trailer competition. And that year was the 10th year they'd done it. So all the films I think were called 10.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I just got together a group of our friends and we made this little trailer. And then everybody was like, let's make this a movie. And so we ran a Kickstarter was like very new at that point. And we had like a good community in Boston around music. And like we were very involved in like all the art scenes there. And so like the Kickstarter got funded like right away. And then we like rented a mansion and shot this murder mystery in Rhode Island.
Is this the cover with a pig?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I randomly stumbled on that on like Tubi.
Yeah.
On Tubi, right?
Tubi, yeah. So we were really jumping into a feature.
Ran around crazy. Like we were working like because we didn't know what we were doing, we were like up like 20 hours a day, like trying to finish the movie up until like we had to leave at like 8 a.m. and we were up at 7, like, okay, we gotta
Oh gosh.
It was obviously a very small crew. I'm trying to remember. There were 10 cast members, including you. And then I think on top of that, I think there were only like another 3 or 4 crew members.
So our photographer for our bands, whenever we need to do a band photo shoot, was Kelly Davidson, and she was like this amazing Boston photographer.
Yeah.
So she shot our first 2 movies for us, and it was cool for her too because she'd never done video stuff. And so these 2 movies, she's done a lot of music videos and things.
Oh, that's awesome.
But she's like very trained photographer. So probably like we at least had somebody that knew lighting and had like nice like DSLR. Like, so like they don't look as bad as they could for my first film.
For not knowing what we're doing. And we learned a lot about writing because you write a script thinking like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And then you do it and you're like, oh, this is very boring.
And that was your first time working together, like on a feature, right?
Yep.
So what was that dynamic like? Like what have you guys built together as a duo instead of just making your separate projects?
Because we played in bands together.
Yeah.
We were so used to working together on things. So it wasn't really that much of a shift from that. And we worked together, through the whole pre-production process. And then, we were working together on set. So I think it was, other than us not knowing what we were doing, the shoot went pretty smoothly overall. Like it wasn't, everybody had fun, I think. Everybody still talks to us. So. But no, I think we had a good time working together. And it's one of those things where for anybody who hasn't made a feature film, what typically happens is you get to the end of the film and you're like, I'm never doing this again. This is the worst possible thing. And then about 2 weeks later, you're like, okay, I got my idea for the next one.
Yeah. Let's go through the beating again.
Yeah. So that happens.
Like putting together a feature-length project is such a daunting task. To have 2 brains at it is like, I recommend it. You need to find somebody you can tolerate.
You need that collaboration. You need somebody to say, that's not a good idea. Let's do this. Here's why. Oh, okay, I get your viewpoint.
In indie film, it's so DIY. It's so, not everybody who's involved is going to be as committed as the kind of head.
Yeah.
People. And so when you have 2 of them who are fully committed, it's a lot easier. Yeah. Managing so many things.
It's a train forward, man. You got to keep following that.
Yeah. So that was fun. We survived it. I think, unfortunately for the world, we were encouraged by a lot of people in Boston. There's a festival called the Boston Underground Film Festival. And the people who run that, it's a really great fest, like a really high tier fest. But the people who ran it were very, very nice to us and supported us and programmed their film. Okay. And, they were happy, I think, because it sells out. It sells out, local film.
Blood of the Tribbids. What are the inspirations behind that film? Because it's so specific. It's like the European Vampiro Lesbo vibes,
So I think what happened, I loved all those films and I had been watching, or we I guess had been watching a lot of the 70s Hammer films. And then I was watching a lot of the Jean Roland films, if you're familiar with those.
Yep.
And so,
like Fascination, right?
I love Fascination.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, all those films. And we went to a double feature at the Brattle, which is this theater that kind of like supported us and inspired us, and that's where the Boston Underground Film Festival was. So it became kind of a part of our filmmaking experience. But they did a double feature of Twins of Evil and Daughters of Darkness.
Okay.
And we went to that, and I think it ended, and we're just like, we should make like a 70s, and they're very different films, but
Yeah.
they both have kind of a feel to them.
The European essence.
Yeah. So we're like, we should make a 70s Euro vampire film.
Yeah.
But we would play music with Boston had, for whatever reason, like this great horror burlesque scene. And we would play music with them and stuff. And so like we were very embedded in like that kind of arts community. So like we just cast from local musicians and local burlesque artists. And anybody were like, do you want to get naked? Like, do you not have that many tattoos? Like, come down. So we shot that over like 3 or 4 months, just like on the weekends, like when we were trying to find people and their availability.
And at that point, I mean, there's probably close to 50 actors in it, and I don't think at that point there were 50 actors in Boston, at all.
Well, I think that's great. It's just like, it's a community. You guys are building a community. And I did appreciate that it was male and female nudity you guys had.
We wanted to kind of flip the way that those 70s films like portrayed women.
Right.
It was a big part of the idea of the film, to really think about recontextualizing the kind of themes and ideas that are in those films.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of male nudity.
No, I love it.
Being tortured, all that stuff. So, but yeah, we had a lot of fun. I mean, I think, we thought we made that movie, none of our movies have ever cost a lot of money, but we made that movie for not a lot of money. And, we sort of thought like, this is a super niche movie that about 5 people in the world will enjoy.
I'm one of them. So there you go.
No, it ended up being, much more well received than we expected, and got to a lot of great fests. And
I didn't know like the specific like 70s Euro references.
Yeah.
There's enough in like regular vampire cinema that's like gothic and whatever. Like even just regular fans of vampires.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, I get it.
And that's just the Europeans' interpretation of it. And then we have all these other like Americans, all these different cultures. So it's like all the same thread, but just with different colors.
Yeah. So we had fun. Yeah, we had fun doing that. And by the time we finished that one, we kind of felt like, this is not a brag. We had kind of we were like the top filmmakers in Boston, which is to say there are not a lot of filmmakers in Boston, or like in the independent space.
Of course.
Yeah.
We just felt like we hit the ceiling and we were like, all right, we can't really grow much further than this. So like we used all the resources we could find on that film. And so it just felt like it was time, if we wanted to keep growing, that we needed to go somewhere else.
Okay. And was that another Kickstarter film?
Yeah, so our first 3 films were all Kickstarter raised.
Yeah.
And it was easier as you made each film, like you're building an audience, right? So like, I'll fund the next film and then the next.
Yeah, we had good support there for sure.
Yeah. And the middle film was a sci-fi film.
Sorry to skip it.
No. just for context. But we made a really strange sci-fi film called Magnetic that had really one actor in it pretty much. And we shot that over the course of like months, where we traveled to all different places. And this is true of that movie and of Blood of the Tribbids. We just kind of like...
We just throw people in a car.
Yeah.
We're making movies.
With like 4 of us, so it's I mean, at those... we shot Blood of the Tribbids, the 2 of us, but Kelly Davidson, who shot 10, also shot Magnetic. So it was pretty much her, the one actor. Sometimes we had a PA, and the 2 of us, right? We would drive, to whatever Western New York to go to waterfalls and pretty much anything. When you're making low budget films, you're just like, what do we have access to?
Right? Yeah, that is what it is, right? You got your camera, you got your actors. Yep. What can I add the value of production?
Yeah. So that was kind of the approach to all those. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we close this chapter, because it sounds like after Blood of the Tribbids, you've made your way to LA. Because Blood of the Tribbids, like we're talking about, is a very niche reference that you're trying to portray for a modern audience, and you kind of touched on with like flipping the script with male nudity and the violence towards men instead of just women, like those films usually had. So what does it take to make like a modern day exploitation movie? Because you see everybody doing another or an exploitation trailer, right? Yeah. And it falls in the same pitfalls of like female violence, and not just saying that's the only difference between an older one and today, but what kind of was going through your head now of like modernizing something like that?
Do you want to talk about it? Yes. We're very analytical with film anyway.
Yeah.
So we are very focused on like themes and ideas and meaning in film. And so to me, there's no reason to replicate something from the past if you have nothing new to add. add comment, or new way to comment on it. And so, I mean, I love Exploitation.
Yeah.
I watched tons of Exploitation.
Of course.
There's obviously some things about it that don't really sit that well in a modern context, right? So, the people who are like, I love slasher films, I'm just going to make a slasher film that's exactly like those slasher films. To me, that feels like you're missing something.
There's like a resurgence of that.
There is a resurgence of that. I'm not, I don't want to be critical of anybody.
Yeah,
but to me, I think it's more important to say, well, what is it about those films that connects with people? What's interesting about those films? And how can we add to the conversation about that? What can we do to, to make it have additional value beyond like Friday the 13th already exists.
Yes.
I don't need to make Friday the 13th now, right? So what can I do that extends that increases the kind of world of film and the body of film and the language of film in a way that is meaneful.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's been our approach always.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have a female character in your movie, like give her something to do.
Not just stand there naked.
Just get murdered in some way that's like really sexual. It's like, so she just stood around looking hot, and then she was murdered brutally. Like, give her more than that.
Yeah.
No, she's a person. Women have wants, desires, needs. So just write that into your narrative, and then like you'll have a character that more people can identify with.
Yeah. Do you think there's a film from that bygone era that kind of was very progressive for its time that you guys like would always go back to as a reference point?
I think most of those films actually are progressive for the time. Like they were. It's just, I mean, this is a strange tangent, but my father once, sort of said to me, like, if you look at the Bible and you look at like the laws in, and I'm not a religious person for context. Okay. If you look at the laws in like Leviticus is where they lay out all the laws. They were intending those to be progressive ideas. Like they were like, looking at the cultures around them and saying, don't do human sacrifice and don't, there are things, but the problem is that people have maybe kept those as set in stone as what they are, rather than viewing them as progressive and wanting to adapt them forward. And I think film can be like that too. That's why I did the story.
Love that.
So I think that's an interesting analogy, because I don't think film should be, the holiness of like 70s film, even though it may have been progressive at the time. I think exploitation film is an amazing space where, for the first time, you had female protagonists, you had black protagonists. They were never allowed to be protagonists in mainstream.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you have all these films that explore those ideas. They have problematic elements, of course, with them as well. Or problematic as we view them in
today's context.
Right? Not necessarily as problematic in 1970.
Yeah. Like Black Christmas is like an outlier. If you see like one of the characters wants to get an abortion and she talks to her husband about it, and he's like, no, but I want to get married. She's like, yeah, but I want a career, and that's not the life I need right now. And so it's like, I just felt like that conversation that they had is so important to that time. And it is like, the pill is out. Like it's like a dawn of second wave feminism, but it's such like a refreshing conversation in there. And like, she's a real full person in a way, has her own desires. Yeah. So I think like that movie, particularly for the time, was like very progressive.
Oh, for sure. And that's why it stands the test of time.
Right. Yeah.
And I always go back to like Cannibal Holocaust, for example, because it's a movie. I've mentioned it because I'm just so fascinated by that movie. It's a movie that was trying to make a statement of commenting on media exploitation, but it's an exploitation movie.
Exploitation is I think when I try to like introduce a 70s exploitation film to like a young person, it's very hard sometimes for them to understand it's a new kind of context.
Yeah.
But like if you grew up watching that, or you watched it a little earlier in time before we understood analytically some of these ideas, I think you have a different way of viewing it. So our goal, I think, is to take those approaches and those progressive ideas and kind of map them onto more modern. So that's always our goal, I think, with our films. I mean, we always want to make some kind of statement or have some kind of ideas in it that are adapting those into something meaningful in the present.
And there's a discourse that I've noticed is going around on the internet. It kind of went away, but at one moment, a certain director mentioned something, and then and it's about like, is horror political? And it was fascinating seeing people fight that, but I'm like, I think it is. But what do you guys think?
I think no art is made in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Literally every choice we make in the day is political.
What was that?
So yeah, like when I make art, it's based on what's going on around me in
Yeah.
the world, even if it's like, yeah, it's not directly about
Mm-hmm.
XYZ. It's
Yeah.
like it can't be made without that knowledge.
Mm-hmm. It's a reflection. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, as soon as you put something in a frame on a screen, right, you've made a choice about what that
Mm-hmm.
focus is, right? Who that is, what that
Yeah.
is, how you're framing it, how you're portraying it, what the context is. That is already a set of choices that have meaning.
Yeah.
So, right, to say film has no meaning or is just kind of like fluff, I just don't think it's really possible. Even if you're not intending it, it's reflective of what.
It's a subconscious thing too.
Yeah.
Because like the framing aspect's so fascinating because you can meet people that are like, oh, I know exactly how I want to frame this because of this. Or other people are like, oh, let's just do a wide shot and blah, blah, blah. But subconsciously, what's in that wide shot and it reflects kind of what they're trying to say.
There's a lot of psychological things that are happening when you're framing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What was the first film you guys made in LA? Or before we go there, what was like your experience moving to LA from Boston, like Kings and Queens of Boston now in LA?
Well, we sort of, I think we talked about this, that we're like, when we show up in LA, we are nothing at all. Like, in Boston, I mean, in the arts community, I don't want to say we're not famous, but like in the arts community, people know who we are. Which is, again, not a big community, not a big thing.
But it's a community though, and that's important.
So we're known. People would stop me on the subway and say like, oh, hey, I liked your movie, whatever.
Yeah.
So we were known in Boston. We thought, okay, we're moving to LA. I think I said, we may just be ready because we may not make any headway on anything for 5 years. Like, who knows? We may not meet anybody or figure out anything. It may be, just we have to be patient.
Yeah.
Right. We can't assume that we're going to, get involved quickly. And I think about a week after we arrived, you were off cam-opping on a horror movie. And I went to Scream Fest, and we had known, thankfully we had done festivals and other things, so we knew a lot of people who lived in LA just through the festival circuit. And so, I went to Scream Fest, met a ton of people, and I think we were just I think the horror community is pretty welcoming and pretty open. And once you are here for a bit, you realize there's 300 horror community people, and they're all at the same events over and over again. So everywhere we went, we saw the same set of people. And I think people, were pretty welcoming. They were pretty, I think because we had made some features, even if they're micro budget features that we made in Boston, it's still oh, you made features. They're on streaming platforms. Okay, you're somebody. You count. So yeah, we had a pretty, I thought it was a pretty easy adjustment overall.
Yeah, and I started immediately working as an AC because Tribbids was the first thing that I'd really shot.
Oh, wow, okay.
Shooting together. So, right after that, I'm we bundled through that. I learned so much. And then I was once I started ACing here and seeing real gear and 30-person crews and all this stuff, I learned so it was a crash course.
Yeah.
So I did that for a few years. And I recommend that to anybody that wants to DP, get them out there and focus pull for somebody.
Yeah.
Put together the rigs and, all that, because that is where I learned everything.
Yeah. Got you. And what was the first film you guys made out here?
The first film that we made, because we made
because
we made a bunch of, we started getting involved with some people who were doing kind of a lot of anthologies. So we made a whole bunch of anthology shorts when we moved to LA, and we did a whole, I don't know, six or seven of those, and those all got released as parts of various anthologies. And then our first feature was a movie called Clickbait.
Yes. So what was the inspo behind Clickbait? Because it's a batshit movie.
It's a weird. It started out actually. The one of the lead actors, Brandy Aguilar, had hired this guy Jeremy Long, who we're friends with both of them, but we're good. We hang out with Jeremy all the time. Hired him to write a script that she could produce and act in.
Okay.
And somehow we got involved in that originally just to shoot it, and then. Gradually it just turned into I took over, I rewrote the whole thing. Then we were producing it, whatever. And we actually shifted her part, and she was originally going to play Bailey, the kind of lead character.
Got you.
And I was like, listen, this is a better fit for you personally. And it's actually the character that's supposed to have the arc spoiler, has more of the arc in the movie. It's kind of like a backdoor arc of growth. And so anyway, we rewrote it and thought about it, and we're like, we'll try to make this a little bit more normal horror, it'll have comedic elements, but we'll focus on that. And then just, as you produce low budget movies, things are out of your control when they go where they go.
I love doing production design and graphic design, like from my days of like making show flyers.
Yeah.
I had made this box for Tube Strudels, and like all the actors just started interacting with it so much, so we would just like roll on it. Like,
That's
they were
great.
doing like a dumb shtick with the Tube Strudels, And so then, like in post, especially, like we added the infomercial, we added this stuff.
Well, we wanted, in terms of storytelling.
I think my other note on that is like horror comedies weren't as big at that moment.
Yeah.
And it actually downward the movie in some ways. It was like distributors and stuff just wanted it to be a straight ahead horror. And I think now we're just about to get the rights back and we're going to re-release it as a horror comedy.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because I think that did hurt it in distro and at Fest.
And people would watch it thinking like the cover looks like a horror movie and all that, the way they
really pissed me off because they replaced, maybe our poster wasn't great, but they replaced our poster with a woman's chest. From here to here. It's like a stock photo.
Yeah, so it's not the stock photo.
Okay, so you cut off her head, and like, what is this? And like, what are you marketing? Because this is
a
goofy movie.
Yeah, it's not
a sexy horror thriller.
So they kind of mismarket it, and then people watch it, and they're like, "This movie isn't scary," and it's like, "Yeah, it's not. That's not the intent."
Mm-hmm.
So people go into it expecting something different, and that's fine. I mean, that's our somebody's error in the process of getting it out into the world. But anyway. The movie got kind of like goes where it goes. We only have so much control over the realities of like how actors are and how people interact and what they kind of latch on to. And so we always kind of try to lean into wherever the movie is good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, I always say as a director, I'm pretty much driving a train that has gone off a cliff, which means I'm pretending I have any control over it and trying to make all the passengers feel like, oh yeah, no problem. The train is going perfectly fine. So, we've learned to kind of like ride the wave where it goes. And with that movie, especially, it was meant to be a social satire.
Yes.
But it got, it kind of like, that's where it really started to entrench itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
It should be pre-TikTok, like, there's like an influencer going live.
Yeah.
Doing everything she can to get views. It was like a little bit pre-timely almost.
I think that's funny though. You guys are gonna re-release it because the mask.
We did like a Michael Myers-esque mask with don't.
Yeah. In a way, I mean, for the context of it, it wasn't even like meant to be about Donald Trump. It's meant to be about the idea of celebrity and like he's like the worst manifestation of what celebrity can lead to. I guess the fact that like he was not a politician.
Yeah, he was a celebrity.
He's a celebrity who then kind of like became this entity that kind of antagonizes a lot of people.
Well, same thing with you guys with Michael Myers and William Shatner, right? Yeah. That was the mask.
Exactly. So. Yes, a bit on that. Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a satire. It's a satire of horror. Yeah. It's a satire of kind of social media. And there are a lot of things that in it that I think are. I don't know how they read in the present. They read a little differently because of how social media has changed and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we had fun making it. I feel like it turned out different than what we expected, and we were like not really sure. And it's been received, mixed. I think like some people are into that kind of thing, and a lot of people are like, this isn't a horror movie, or like, what is this weird thing? And somebody said to us, and I think when we re-release it, we'll kind of market it this way. They're like, this is basically like a 90s Nickelodeon TV show. Like the Amanda Show, one of those things where it's like this, people are acting in a heightened way, kind of a crazy way. It's not in a real world, but it's a satire of like the way people behave. And I'm like, that's exactly the vibe that we were kind of going for. But if you watch it and you're expecting something completely different than that, it may play in a different way, in the wrong way.
It's a very hyperbolic, satirical, surreal movie.
Yeah, we had fun making it. I feel like it led us places we didn't expect to go, and the Toot Strudels thing became like the meme of the movie. Mm-hmm. And we, I when we were kind of doing those rewrites and reconsiderations of it, we really liked the idea that the whole story, this whole like horrible story, happens ultimately to serve like some product being sold. With the Toot Strudels, it's like, all this terrible stuff is ultimately happening so that somebody can sell you like this dumb thing. I think once we recontextualize and the marketing materials, I think it'll be interesting to see how people receive it.
Okay, yeah.
So we're excited about that.
Great.
Finally got our rights back after
beautiful
7 years.
7 years, wow. Well, I do want to ask you guys about distribution because, again, like I know some people that are making films right now, and that's kind of the step that some of them are stuck on. It's distribution. You guys have been really proactive with getting your stuff out there. So
yeah, we've gone through many different approaches. You know, we've had a number of different distributors. We've sometimes really carved rights where we give like just, you know, a portion of rights to one, portion of rights to another. Our biggest success has been with kind of, I guess, what's called self-distribution, which really means that you're really carving out the rights. You're giving very limited rights to all different people. So like Blood and Tribbids was completely self-distributed. We used this company Film Hub to get it onto like the standard platforms, onto like Tubi, places like that. And then we signed like a Blu-ray deal with this company called Horror Pack, which just closed sadly. And they did our kind of Blu-ray release. We did a VHS release with another company, and then we sell it ourselves on our website and all that kind of stuff. So we had the most success with that, where we really controlled all the different elements.
Gotcha.
Other movies like Clickbait, we signed it over to a distributor who acted as kind of like a sales agent as well. And so they sold rights various places and somehow managed to never pay us anything as a result of that. And it cost too much to sue them to get the thing back. So we're just happy we've learned our lesson with and what I would say to anybody who's looking for distribution is just make sure, like really, really make sure that contract is solid, and know that even if somebody breaches a contract, you probably don't have the money to go after them or deal with it. So like we always think like, okay, we're only going to sign a deal if they give us a money kind of upfront that covers the cost of what we need to make back for the movie. Because there are a lot of people who get like either no money upfront or a tiny bit of money upfront, and then they never get anything.
Yeah. Damn.
So
okay, so you guys did Clickbait, and then what was the next project, the big one that really captivated y'all?
I think it's Smash It.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Oh, you can.
All right.
Yeah, you can talk.
So we did a double feature, which I know you've you're aware of.
Yep.
Called The Once in Future Smash and End Zone 2.
Beautiful.
And this came together. This is a lot of these projects. I mean, I think that, as a kind of a DIY filmmaker, again, you're like, what are my resources? If somebody says like, look, I've got all these resources, you're like, okay, I'm going to make a movie that uses those resources that are available. So in this case, I was talking to my friend Neil Jones, who does Without Your Head, this podcast Without Your Head. He's done it for years. It's a big horror podcast where he's interviewed like everybody in horror for decades. 20 years, before the word podcast existed.
Oh, wow. He was one of the first.
He was doing this for a long time. So I was talking to him, and he had a problem where there were two guys who both played the same slasher character in a franchise film, and he had both of them on a number of times on his show, and he was having one of them on, and the other one got mad because they're like, oh, that guy is stealing my credit. Like he doesn't really deserve credit. He always claims he did it, but I'm really the real one. And I said to Neil, I'd already been thinking about some of these people who kind of have those rivalries. There's a famous one in the Friday the 13th franchise that famously Linda Blair won't sign anything that Eileen Dietz has signed previously, who played was her double for a lot of the more graphic scenes in Exorcist, and played the face of Pazuzu and everything. But so I'd already been thinking about that's an interesting space to work in. So Neil was telling me about that. I'm like, oh, I have this idea to do a story about like two guys who have this rivalry, because to me it's a stupid thing to have a rivalry. You could both be like, cool, we're both in Texas Chainsaw 2 in this case is what our movie was inspired by. So you could be like, cool, we're both in this, let's celebrate that, let's like have a table together at conventions and both see the thing. Like, why not take advantage of it, right? And so I told Neil, I had this idea to kind of mess around with that, but I'm like, I would need to get access to like a convention. It's not something I could do because it requires certain resources. So Neil says, I'm really good friends with the guy who runs Mad Monster. I bet he would let you shoot there if you wanted to do it. And I was like, oh, really? You think so? And he's like, yeah, let me check with him. And so Neil, messages me like half hour later. He's like, okay, Evan said we can shoot there and have a table and do a panel and like literally whatever. Like anything. So I said to Neil, I'm like, okay, I'm into this. And I haven't described the premise yet for anybody listening, but I will.
We'll get there.
I'm into this, but Neil, I would need you to help so that we could get some of the kind of like celebrities who you've interviewed to talk about this movie. So the idea would be that there'd be these two actors who were in a fake movie, not Texas Chainsaw 2, but like a fake movie kind of like that. And so I would need actors and producers and directors and whatever to talk about that movie, the history of that movie and so on. And Neil's like, oh yeah, I'm totally in. He's like, I'm sure I can get, a bunch of people to be part of that. In my vision, I was like, this is the slasher that actually everybody stole from, but nobody really has seen.
Oh,
so that's the kind of the premise. At this point, we have no idea of like what the movie is. There's no movie.
The seeds are being planted.
There's no like actual slasher movie that we have in mind or anything. And, so, I say to Neil, I'm like, well, I want this to be a movie from like 1970. So the guys who were in that, they should be like, in their late 70s or 80 or whatever. And right away, we both said, Bill Whedon and Michael St. Michael's would be amazing to get in this.
Perfect duo.
So I knew Bill already because I had worked with him. So I reached out to him, and Neil had interviewed Michael and knew him. And so he reached out to him, and they both immediately said yes. They're like, oh, we're totally into this idea. We're down to do this. We're down to go to this convention in February and do this thing. So I was like, oh no, now we need to like write a movie. There's literally nothing. We've got like a location, an idea, actors, kind of a plan, but nothing else. Like no, not barely a premise, Yeah. So, so we sat down and we kind of brainstormed through stuff, and I started writing the thing. And then we were talking about what the slasher movie, we were like, we need an iconic slasher character. Like, what could that be? We're coming up with names. We're like,
Smash Rat.
And we Googled it and found out it was a football term.
Yeah, we didn't even know what it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like rough football playing is Smash Rat.
Just like Santa's right down his football trap.
So we basically then, built this idea of this movie franchise called End Zone with a football character who is, it's a high school footballer who is like lost the game for his team. And he's beaten up by his own team, and he's like deformed. Basically.
Yeah, and has his smash mouth.
Because there's a broken jaw, he can't eat.
Yeah.
And so he has to, we thought it's funny to make him a cannibal who can't eat. Like, that's a funny idea. So, like, he has to put people into a blender, and, like, this smoothie. We thought this is just a ridiculous idea. So we create this idea of this End Zone franchise, and that, everything kind of evolves from that. And we had to shoot. So originally we were going to shoot just like little snippets of this End Zone movie to put into, so the idea would be Once and Future Smash is a mockumentary about those two guys kind of going to conventions and revisiting this movie that was from 50 years before.
Yeah.
And that nobody really knows about, but that they're trying to kind of revive because I think it's also funny that there are all these convention people who are like, oh, I was the guy in the corner in this like really obscure horror movie, and now give me $40 to sign it.
Like, who are you?
Yeah. It's kind of become this is a very strange thing.
And you got so many like horror legends.
Yeah. So that was all 100% Neil pretty much.
Because at that point, like we had shot. So basically we had to go shoot materials to have at the convention. So like we needed like footage of like, and photo stills, for the fake sign of the convention.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In December,
at first we were going to just do clips.
Yeah, but once you price out costumes, a location, actors, I was like, we might as well just keep those for 6 days, 2 days,
Make the whole movie.
Make the whole movie, yeah.
So I have this great cabin up in Lake Arrowhead that like let us shoot there for like almost.
They didn't care, yeah.
It's like crazy cheap.
Really?
And then we only like cast like women that we kind of knew, like friends of ours.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna live at this cabin, and we're all gonna eat together and sleep in the same room, and that's it.
Oh, that's so fun.
So just getting people that we trusted, and okay, so we spent like 6 or 7 days at that cabin.
And we wanted to be short. We also wanted to be short because we knew we wanted to do festivals with both movies, and so we're like, it's a little easier to get. Program both movies if you keep that one down.
So it was like an hour, right?
It's a little over an hour, 61 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we, purposely kind of designed the thing so that the two movies combined are like 2.5 hours. And so that's not so bad to go to a film festival and say, we want to show two movies, which is a lot to ask.
Yeah.
But it's not like 4 hours,
Yeah.
It's a
No, it was brisk. Like because I saw it at Screamfest, that was like my first time really talking to you guys. And I think it was like what? Future Smash, then End Zone?
Yeah. That was kind of like the design of it. We shot at the convention. Well, we shot the movie first, like you said, so that we had the materials for it.
Yeah.
And then we shot the convention parts of it with Michael and Bill, and that was just like 3 days, I guess 3.5 days.
How was that? Was that pretty chaotic? Like,
Oh, man.
just maneuvering through all that?
So it's a scripted movie generally. So
Yeah.
even though it should hopefully feels not scripted, it is scripted mostly. There's a scene where there's a costume competition, which we didn't know about because we figured, okay, here are the things at the convention that we can do. We didn't know there was a costume competition, but we had brought the costume anyway. And so we have one of the characters who's like kind of the sidekick helper character. We were like, oh, we'll enter him into the costume competition.
And
We knew the host, James
Okay.
Balsamo. And we said, James, do you mind, he's going to enter the competition. Just have him lose. Like, just have him be like, you suck, you lose, whatever. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. And then I guess they had worked out. I didn't even know what they had worked out, but they had worked out a thing where he was going to like really rail into him, like really, really rail.
Yeah, that's
And then
funny.
call him back at the end and be like, you, the worst costume in the whole. So we didn't know any of that was going to happen.
Yeah.
hundreds of people in this.
Oh my God. Yeah, they're like, this is real.
Yeah. They came up to James at the end and were like yelling at him for bullying. It was great. I mean, it worked out great. That was all kind of like improvised, basically. We didn't know that was going to be part of it.
So how was it working with the Saint Michael himself? Because
Yeah.
I love the Greasy Strangler, so.
He has like a very crusty like exterior, like very like, circular and gruff or whatever. He's a big softie. And now I call him my grandpa, but like we drive down. Like he lives in Long Beach. We drive down and take him out to dinner sometime.
Yeah.
Because you're friends with him.
Yeah. We hang
You're
out.
like good friends.
Yeah.
So we did write the characters for Bill and Mike.
Yeah.
We were right because we had precast them.
Yes, yeah.
That helps. But like both of them, like we didn't really need to adjust them so much. Like they were both just like living in these characters so well. And like now they're good friends, but like on set, like they had just met that day and they're listening.
Okay.
Like
So that was the first time ever like seeing each other talking.
Yeah, because Bill lives in New York and Michael lives in LA.
we did have a little bit of that rivalry on set.
Interesting.
That like the bristling between them was like very real feeling the whole time.
And we only had them like I was saying, we only had them 3.5 days.
Yeah.
We were only there for that limited period. And then the rest of the movie, as you had mentioned, it's a lot of talking heads who are people in the kind of horror world talking about how End Zone 2 was very influential to their career or when they first saw it and all that kind of stuff. And so Neil was instrumental in that. He arranged those. I mean, he lives in Massachusetts. And so he kind of hooked us up with those people. We filmed them out here.
You just go to their houses and
we go to
set
their
up.
house, or we did a studio day where they came to the studio.
Okay.
Some of them came to our place. So whatever we could work out. Whatever was convenient for them, basically.
I'm blanking on his name, but he was the writer for one of the Friday the 13th. And he was in front of his, I know you have multiple, but he was in front of his, like, with the Emmys or something.
Victor Miller.
Victor Miller. God, his stance. he just delivered it. Was killing me.
He lives up near San Francisco.
Okay.
So I flew up alone because it's like the only way to do it.
Oh, it was just,
And flew back in the afternoon.
That.
So we had a call with him. I was like, Neil, like I just can't go there alone and like not have him know what's going on.
Yeah.
Caller like really explained everything, and he was just like 100% in. And we had like with all those people, we had like a list of lines that we like
We scripted for them.
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
And then most people kind of improv from there.
Mm-hmm.
I get to his house and he's like, "Let's do it in front of my Emmys."
I was amazed they all really, because it's a very confusing project to explain to somebody. And we're also asking them to act as themselves and say that like this movie that they'd not seen was very influential.
Yeah.
They know nothing about the movie. We're just like, say this stuff. Like they don't know what they're saying, and it's as them. So it was I thought it was kind of nerve wracking to get them to do that. And then for them to see it later and be like, I hope nothing was like, felt weird about it. But they all totally got into it.
We love horror so much, and we love the history of it, and we love like their work.
Some of it they do make fun of themselves, but in a fun, like they know, and then it's a fun way. It's not meant to be mean or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, Victor Miller is making fun of himself for sure.
Yeah. That was so funny.
But Victor Miller basically, I mean, part of our joke is that the End Zone series kind of was the main influence on all other horror
Yep.
movies, right? So it created everything. Everything you see in other horror franchises originally came from End Zone. That's our joke. And so in the first End Zone, which doesn't exist,
It's missing.
it's missing,
film.
it's totally missing. The idea is that it turns out at the end the mother is really the killers. So we have victim mother basically more or less stole that for Friday the 13th. Which, you know, again, going to those people and being like, hey, will you say this thing, feels like, are they gonna like be mad at us or whatever? But again, they all thought. I mean, a few people said no to doing the project.
Of course,
it's totally fine.
Well, that was a fantastic movie. So what do you guys got going next? You guys got new projects coming along you're trying to push?
You want to talk about? Okay. All right. Well, we just did we were part of a team who did a crowdfunding for a found footage movie called Final Transmissions.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that there are these kind of like signals that were intercepted, that were turned into this like mystery. I don't know if it's like an unsolved mysteries kind of TV show where they're like, there's a host or something, and they're like, we recovered this transmission, whatever. And so then each of the filmmakers is kind of doing a story that's part of that, and then the wraparound with the host. There's some other. We're not involved in writing that, so I haven't seen the script or anything, but there's some other story that all kind of ties together.
Interesting. Gotcha.
So we're doing a film for that, or an episode for that, about the astronaut who remains in the command module when there's like a moon landing. So the person who's just kind of waiting and doing communications. And so the whole film takes place in the command module. It's the found footage of like the internal cameras that are recording the mission.
Oh, cool.
And it's more or less just like what the communications are with everybody else.
Yeah.
Start going wrong, of course.
Of course, they have to. It's a horror movie.
So we're doing that as a episodic for that series, and then we're adapting that into a feature film as well. So
nice.
They're doing a feature film version of that.
Okay.
Before we got hooked up with this anthology crew was to do so I back to like the filmmaker thing of like I have a thing, so I'm gonna write a movie around that.
Of course.
I have a good friend named Bill Knoll, who's a DP that I work with sometimes. And he just in his garage had built like a 4-wall like little space capsule for himself to do projects in. And I had seen another friend of mine that shot a short film in there, and it looked incredible. Like it looked so good. It's all these blinking lights and a porthole and all this stuff. And so I was over at his place camera prepping another project, and Mike came by and he was like, can we shoot in here? And so that's like when the idea started, was like, okay, we just have this tiny 3-wall. It's like pretty small. One person can fit, you know? And so that's like really where you got the initial idea.
Yeah.
And so, you know, because we always have to make things bigger than they are.
We also, I'm really interested in like old technology. I mean, this has especially become, I think a lot of people have become interested recently because cameras have gotten so good.
Yeah.
That, you know, we often we're trying to shoot on the best possible camera and make everything look great. And people have gotten interested in shooting on like VHS and bad.
Yes, it's coming back.
That don't look good.
Yeah.
You know, as a kind of a response to that. So you get a different feel to it, a grittiness.
It's dirty. There's scars on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we wanted to shoot this. I was like, oh, it'd be fun to do this as like a found footage movie in this space and shoot it on like a really strange camera. And there was a camera in the 80s that I remember, you know, when I was a kid, but I never had, called a PXL 2000. It was a Fisher-Price camera marketed toward kids. The videos were all like skate kids. Yeah, it was pretty much like skater kids. You know. Yeah. Okay. So it would record, on a 100-minute audio cassette, it would record 10 minutes of video with audio. And it's a really low frame rate. It's really low resolution.
You guys used it on your Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we're shooting this movie. We have 4 of them. Wow. You know, mounted in fixed positions in the spaceship set. And we'll basically, you know, be filming it kind of like a live, almost like a play. Yeah. A multi-cam play.
That's great.
I'm sure there'll be edits in it.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so that's kind of like the vibe of it. And it has this very specific kind of, strange, it's kind of like a haunting look to me. Like I really like the look of it. It's an eerie look.
It's creepy.
And you can't really see a lot on it. It's like details are not really clear. And so we thought this story would be really, because it's all so much of it is audio communications anyway. We're like, this is a really sound design focused thing. This would really work as like a radio play even. So we're like, the visuals are almost secondary to the storytelling and to the feel of it. And a lot of it is related. I mean, the story itself is related to sound, and there's like kind of sound stuff in it. So we thought it'd be really fun to shoot on these cameras and do that. And I don't think there's ever been the longest film I think ever shot that I've ever seen shot on those is about 60 minutes. And I don't think there's ever been like a properly released feature film shot on the Pixel 2.
Marketing. Well, as we're wrapping up, if you guys can deliver to this camera individually, because I want both y'all's voices, inspo to any filmmaker out there that needs to hear it.
All right. I'm Michael J. Epstein, and I am telling you that you need to just go out there and do it. Don't be afraid. You're going to mess up, and that's part of the experience. So do it.
I'm Sofia Casiola, and yeah, just go out there and do it. You don't need to go to film school. You just need to start making stuff. And we always say make a different mistake next time. So just keep making projects and keep layering on top of it.
Beautiful. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks so much for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.